Garo, simply put, is a monster. After reading some of the recent chapters of One Punch Man, I got pretty interested in his character because he seemed fairly cool, so I went through the manga to get more information on him, and I decided he deserved his own video, him being a character that really stands out to me in this manga as one I enjoy, where a lot of the other ones, even the main character Saitama, aren't really that entertaining for me. This video is going to document Garo's growth throughout the entire series and how much stronger he's gotten, as well as touching on him in a character aspect. If you do like Garo, I encourage you to leave a like on the video. I can't say I'll be doing much more One Punch Man content in the future. I might, but I don't know. But if you like Naruto, I'd consider subscribing. Naturally, for a character whose whole gimmick is the way he gets stronger, we should get started with Garo's earliest forms. To say Garo is a martial arts prodigy is a complete understatement. When he first arrived at Silverfang's dojo, Bang's former #1 pupil, Sourface, couldn't even crack one of the ceramic tiles that Bang set up, when Garo could break all of them but one in just one chop. Obviously, this is just like a superhuman level feat, but this is Garo before he learned any martial arts, at least that we know of. In this scene, Bang also sees the promise Garo has as a student. This is explained in the data book, which is also stated that Garo has a natural sense of martial arts and super learning ability. Garo displays this when Bang kicks him out of his dojo, and Garo can copy the explosion heart release fist just upon reading it from a scroll one time. To further explain how prodigious Garo really is, in Silverfang's youth he was described as blessed in talent. Bang then spends the next several decades training his water stream rock smashing fist up to his 80s, yet Garo, through monsterification and his own talent, could reach a similar level of skill by the time he was just 18 years old. This explains why Garo quickly grew to become Bang's #1 pupil. After believing he learned everything he could, Garo beats up all of his fellow students before he gets smacked up by Bang. Now, I don't really know why Garo thought he learned everything when Bang was clearly so much more advanced than Garo at this point. Maybe Garo just underestimated his master? I don't know. After leaving the dojo though, Garo then goes on to train for the next 6 months on his own. Keep in mind, this is all before he's even introduced officially into the series. In this introduction, Garo has to fight dozens of top assassins, mad scientists, and most importantly, 3 of the top A-class heroes. Garo blitzes and slaps each one of these heroes. Garo then just fights some random featless heroes until he fights Tank Top Master. Tank Top Master is generally looked down upon. However, Garo later goes on to state that Genos and Tank Top Master have equal power. Genos has various forms, however this statement was made in chapter 83. In chapter 9 of the series, Genos destroys the House of Evolution and part of a nearby mountain. Destroying this chunk of a mountain has been calculated to around 41 to 115 kilotons of TNT, or around town level. Then in chapter 10, Genos tanks his own incineration cannon blast with almost no damage, meaning anyone who scales the Genos in either power or durability after chapter 10 should also be town level. This will be a pretty important part for scaling some other characters as well. Tank Top Master is directly compared to chapter 83 Genos, like I said earlier, yet Garo, when he goes full power with the water stream rock smashing fist, can annihilate him and even break his arms. This is pretty consistent with Suryu, thinking Garo is impressive too, since Suryu can block attacks that scale around this level. Now would be a good time to talk about Garo's main technique, the water stream rock smashing fist. Originally created by Silverfang after his brother Bomb beat him up, the water stream rock smashing fist, which for the sake of the rest of this video I'm just going to call the water fist, is the polar opposite to Bang's original style, the heart explosion release fist, which amplifies the user's power. The water fist, on the other hand, is defense oriented. According to Tank Top Master, Garo was able to turn Tank Top Master's own power against him twofold and could redirect and parry all of its attacks. Bang in some translations claims the water fist could deflect any attack regardless of how strong the attack is. The technique also has all of your generic fictional martial arts attacks, such as predicting your opponent's strikes before they make them, and pressure points or vital point striking, which Garo does use on Tank Top Master. Genos also describes Bang's moves as the perfect blend of offense and defense, meaning once Garo reaches Bang's level, the same descriptors should apply to his techniques as well. Garo would also have other martial arts that may add into this one, since Garo had crushed many dojos and fought the highest level of martial artists, probably knows many advanced martial arts techniques thanks to his super learning. It's almost like Bang is like an old kung fu grandmaster and Garo is like a modern day MMA fighter. Anyway, the next S-class hero Garo fights is Metal Bat. Metal Bat is described by both himself and the author 1 to be able to take on dragon level threats, and in the events of season 1, fought the dragon level monster Melzagard. Metal Bat gets amped with a new power called Fighting Spirit, which will get important later, and could one-shot Senior Centipede. Senior Centipede is stated by Murata, the illustrator, to be able to take Genos' blast, putting Metal Bat significantly over town level. Even after getting significantly more amped, Garo is able to deflect all of these attacks with his martial arts and can totally outspeed Metal Bat to the point the hero never lands a single hit. This should mean that Garo, with his martial arts and speed, should be able to fight off dragon level monsters. His attacks were still able to stagger Metal Bat, but he still clearly doesn't fully scale to this level since Metal Bat can blatantly tank head kicks from Garo. After this, Garo gets beaten up by a furry, and then some bald dude throws him into a building like a cartoon character. These injuries mount together. Garo says that he won't be able to move properly for 2 to 3 days. He's even hesitant to face A-class heroes, which he was then speed blitzing earlier. Garo then faces a group of elite A and B class heroes. Initially, Garo is overwhelmed by their teamwork, even though he could easily take on any of them individually. Before Garo learns how to fight teamwork, however, Garo's injuries only increase and a paralyzing poison flows through his veins. After Garo deflects the death shower of the hero Death Gatling, pretty much being forced to face down the hero's full power when he's at his absolute weakest and winning. Garo's next S-class hero appears, Genos. Despite Garo's condition, he can actually keep up with Genos, the two mainly fighting in hand to hand, and Garo reacts to Genos, defends against him, and tags him several times. At one point, Garo manages to rip Genos' arms off as well. This is in chapter 83 like I said earlier, meaning Garo should scale to any prior Genos speed and durability. Genos has fought many demon level monsters such as Deep Sea King and G4 in chapter 38. In this fight, Genos dodges laser beams, which is described as light. Garo still knows he can't defeat Genos though, and as he says himself that in this condition he doesn't think he could win. Despite this, Garo doesn't give up. This is probably because of Garo's growth in super learning, as he believes every hero he hunts makes him stronger. And providing a genuine challenge in Garo's worsening condition, facing such a hero like this could prove to break Garo's limits. Garo also uses the animalistic movements which he learns from Watchdog Man, which blitzes Genos. This animal-like fighting style was also able to counter Garo's own techniques when used by Watchdog Man. However, this isn't exactly a skill feat, as it's mainly because Garo had yet to learn to use combat against animals and beasts. This is also described by Tank Top Master, who says Garo's techniques were designed to face humans. This means if Garo was ever facing someone with equal martial arts skill to him, he could use these beast-like movements and outbox them. Before we see the conclusion of this fight, Silver Fang along with Bomb stop Garo. Garo's main attributes, his martial arts and speed, are totally overwhelmed in this exchange, and Garo notes that Bang was not like his usual self and that he was in a quote-unquote frenzy. After Garo comes to a realization that overcoming Bomb, Genos, and Bang was impossible and was near death, Garo displays a crazy increase in strength despite his body being broken, when he is able to effortlessly rip off the trunk of a tree out of its roots in an attempt to attack Bang and Bomb. After this, Garo gets saved by the Monster Association and gets carried away to their hideout. From this point on, we'll be touching on manga spoilers, which, to be honest, is probably the reason you're here. Anyway, Garo arrives at the monster hideout and is offered the role of Monster Association executive, which gets a rise out of many of the nearby monsters. The thing about these executives is that it's stated that only dragon level monsters can become executives. At the same time, the Hero Association holds a meeting and Stitch claims that Garo should be classified as a dragon level disaster. Between the feats against Metal Bat and these statements, it's pretty consistent that Garo at this point is a dragon level threat. After this, Garo fights the demon level monsters Royal Ripper and Bug God. The fight is interrupted and Garo is caught off guard and Royal Ripper chops him up, but Garo lives. Well, not just lives, but does something called overcoming death. Gyro, the monster leader, Esper, and scientist wanted to create the ultimate monster to oppose the Hero Association, and made the Monster King Orochi. After trying numerous methods to draw out the potential of monsters, she landed with this idea of surviving and overcoming death numerous times. Garo did this, and after returning, infiltrates the monster hideout and one-shots Royal Ripper, the same opponent who was giving him a lot of trouble before. Garo showcases a new martial art, the Whirlwind Iron Cutting Fist, which creates a razor-sharp blast of air to cut opponents. Garo faces 3 demon-level monsters and deflects their strongest combination attack before fighting the monster executive Overgrown Pochi, or Overgrown Rover via the most popular translations. When Pochi blasts Garo at point-blank range, Garo actually thinks he's going to die but adapts to the blast. Pochi's attacks are able to create mini earthquakes in City Z. After this, Garo even adapts to the monster leader Gyro's telekinesis, and we learn he has the same power as Metal Bat, Fighting Spirit, or at least something similar. When used by Metal Bat, whenever the hero would take damage, his speed, power, and durability would increase, and he could recover extremely quickly. It may be related to overcoming death, seeing as Metal Bat thinks that even death isn't enough to stop him. Thanks to Garo's fighting spirit, he goes from being completely paralyzed to physically overwhelming Gyro's telekinesis. Gyro is even hesitant to face Garo and calls upon the aforementioned Orochi. In this fight, we get some basic stuff such as Garo being able to tank Heat Blast and can fight at peak condition despite having a hole in his stomach. The main takeaway from this scene is Garo having the ability to dodge Orochi's horn attacks. Garo manages to dodge Orochi's initial horn attack before being caught off guard, and then after that dodges dozens of these attacks while increasing his speed. Prior to this, Orochi blitzes the monster Awakened Cockroach with this horn. Awakened Cockroach was able to speed blitz Genos after Genos had already dodged light beams, and it stated himself that he could dodge light speed attacks because of this ability to read your intent and move before you attack. Since Orochi is so much stronger and faster, he is able to completely nullify this ability due to there being a huge disparity in their speed. So you'd have a chain with Awakened Cockroach at light speed, Orochi's horns that can blitz that, and then Garo can react to and straight up outrun these horns. After this, Garo doesn't do much for the next couple of chapters since Orochi put him in a coma. Garo returns when Piri Prisoner wakes up, and Garo literally beats up Prisoner in his sleep. Prisoner admits he can't even scratch Garo, even though prior to this, Piri Prisoner can turn a monster stated to be just as strong as Deep Sea King to paste, though it is still known that he is the weakest S-Class. After waking up, Garo fights Super Ally Darkshine, who the narrator hypes up as having impenetrable defenses and being one of the twin pillars of the hero world alongside Bang. Initially, Darkshine tackles Garo and overpowers the Water Fist, and still has enough force afterwards to shatter Garo's ribcage. This could contradict the idea that the water stream can deflect anything like Bang said, but you could just interpret it as Bang's mastered water stream could deflect anything, but Garo's at this point just can't. Which Darkshine kinda supports anyway when he says Garo is inexperienced compared to Bang. Unsurprisingly, after Darkshine does this, Garo adapts to the point where he can match Darkshine's full power and start to damage him, which he couldn't do before, obviously. Him being able to blatantly match punches with Darkshine at full power would also mean that Evolved Garo would be capable of doing to Darkshine what he did to earlier versions of Garo, and could punch away this water stream deflection and cave his ribcage in, showing an astronomical increase. After this, Garo gets even stronger and starts to transform into a monster. Garo also uses a new move, the Cross-Fang Dragon Slayer Fist, which is a combination of his prior arts, the Water Stream Rock Smashing Fist, and Whirlwind Iron Cutting Fist. Once again, there's a bit of a break between Garo fighting Darkshine to his eventual return on the surface, but in this time we get some things from Darkshine. Darkshine thinks that no hero on the surface would be able to defeat Garo, including Atomic Samurai. This seems to be supported since Darkshine does better against Black Sperm and Evil Natural Water than Atomic Samurai. Darkshine's Super Alloy Missile also does more damage to Orochi than Atomic Samurai or another hero, Drive Knight. Drive Knight in particular could beat the monster Executive Nyan and cause significant damage with singular attacks, yet all he can do with Orochi is cause mild pain compared to Darkshine, virtually ripping him in half with one kick. Garo reappears on the surface in a new form, his body covered in some weird monster exterior armor now, and faces against Bomb. Bomb is weakened but can still compete with Garo somewhat, however ultimately lost out pretty quickly. Murata once stated that Bomb was actually stronger than Bang, which may make sense considering Bomb's more offensively and destructively martial arts style, so maybe he could have done better here had he not been low on stamina. We also see in this scene that Garo has perfectly copied the Whirlwind Iron Cutting Fist when he cancels out Bomb's usage of it with his own, putting his level of mastery on the level of the actual creator and master the technique. After beating Bomb, Garo fights Bang, in which both amplify themselves using Awakening Breath. The Awakening Breath draws upon the limits of the body, meaning in terms of stats, both Garo and Bang should be at full power. Even Bang himself states he's at full power here. Garo also uses the Explosion Heart Release Fist, which I mentioned earlier. The technique causes the user's heart to beat at the exact time they attack, causing them to surpass their limits. After a long drawn out fight, Garo eventually whittles Bang down, whereas Garo only has one real minor injury. We learn shortly after that Garo did all this in his sleep and was dreaming the entire time. Now that we've established that Garo's skills above Bang at full power, we could talk about some of Bang's feats. He's widely regarded as one of the greatest, if not the greatest, martial artists in the world, alongside his brother Bomb, and even martial artists that hate on heroes look up to Bang. Bang could also tank a slap from the dragon level monster Melzagard with virtually no damage when he was rusty, but Garo can bloody Bang with individual attacks. After Garo wakes up, he blitzes and one-shots the monster Vomit Fuhrer Ugly. Fuhrer Ugly was able to match blows with Darkshine, yet Garo can now one-shot him, showing how much stronger Garo has gotten. Then he blows Evil Natural Water away and engages in a three-way deadlock with Flashy Flash and Platinum S. Flashy Flash didn't have his sword, so it's not exactly clear how the encounter would have gone if he did have it, but he's still fast enough to blitz two dragon level monsters. Platinum S is an even stronger fusion than Golden S, and Garo can bloody him with just punches and keep up with him in combat after they take out Flashy Flash, and they create this giant Dragon Ball-like constellation. Thanks to the timer, we can somewhat get a gauge of how fast Garo and Platinum S would need to be going here. All that's left is to determine the distance. This feat has been calced at 4.33 times the speed of light for both Garo and Platinum S. This honestly doesn't seem like downplay though, since a way weaker version of Garo should be able to speed blitz other lightspeed characters. By the end of the fight, Garo had evolved so much that he could blitz Platinum S and destroy him. This should put Garo above Atomic Samurai with the Sunblade as well, since Golden S could react to attacks from the swordsman. Then One Punch Man goes absolutely ballistic, and we're introduced to the Sage Centipede and Evil Ocean Water. Saitama instantly takes out the giant puddle, so he's not super important, but Garo fights Sage Centipede. After teaming up with Metal Bat, Garo and the hero's fighting spirits seem to resonate and amp them way higher than ever before, and Garo perfects his new fighting style, the Monster Calamity God Slayer Fist, and kills Sage Centipede with one karate chop. Sage Centipede's attacks have also been calced to be hundreds of teratons of TNT, or large country level. Garo initially couldn't do much more than crack Sage Centipede's face, but by the end literally chops in half the entire being, which is pretty insane given its size. Just as Garo is celebrating his victory, he's reminded why the series is called One Punch Man and proceeds to get bullied by Saitama. Garo undergoes numerous transformations, but Saitama only considers them minor increases. We do learn some interesting things though. Garo's Fajin attack bypasses muscular and bone defenses and directly attacks your organs. Garo also grows wings and multiple arms to fight Saitama, but it's still all fruitless against the main character. After Saitama literally punches the monster out of Garo, a being known as God who is known throughout this series to try to lure people into his power, appears before Garo in the form of Bang attempting to give him a new power. Garo unfortunately succumbs to this, becoming Awakened Garo. As we already know, using the Fist of Flowing Water Crush Rock takes knowledge of the flow of energy behind attacks and recreating it within your body. Garo obviously is able to instantly absorb and copy techniques as an extension of this, but now due to him becoming of the divine power or a cosmic being, some should say, he is now awakened to the flow of cosmic energy and the dispensation of its power. Garo immediately shows off his new powers by creating nuclear explosions with his punches, copying Saitama's consecutive normal punches, which actually scratches the Baldy, and by firing a gamma ray burst, sending Saitama away for a brief period of time. Gamma ray bursts are literally the biggest stars in the universe exploding and can release as much energy as 10 to the 47th joules of energy. That's enough to destroy Earth several billions of times over. This attack briefly blows Saitama away, and Garo confronts the S-Class. The pressure Garo was passively emitting was so powerful that even heroes like Flashy Flash admitted that running away from this entity of overflowing evil was completely futile. Bang, prior to this moment being under the impression that Garo has returned to his right mind, interacts with this new version of Garo and notices that he is being controlled by something evil, which leads him to try to attack him in an attempt to free him, but that's stopped by the sudden appearance of rank number 1 S-Class hero, Blast. From what we know at this point in the series, Blast's role is to collect these cubes that work as transmitters, which warp space so you can communicate with it when you come into contact with it. Knowing this is a way for God to lure people into becoming vessels of his power, Blast makes an effort to get rid of them. Blast explains to Garo that he is being toyed with by God and that his divine power is currently threatening all life on Earth because of the cosmic radiation emitting from his body. Blast and Garo then begin to throw hands, and Blast for some time actually seemed like he had the upper hand, landing more blows using his dimensional abilities. This was then turned around very quickly when Garo immediately was able to copy and use Blast's portal abilities on the same scale as Blast was using them after just one usage. Garo quickly loses interest in Blast, calling him not even worth his attention, and instead looks to draw out Saitama's full power and copy it. He does this by unaliving his student Genos, rest in peace. Kinda. Saitama comes back to see Genos' lifeless robot corpse, extremely pissed off, and immediately engages Garo in combat. Garo and Saitama then clash serious punches, and the power of this attack was so great that Blast felt the destructive power would be enough to completely destroy the Earth, and that transporting the damage would be even too much for him to handle. This caused him to call upon his mysterious subordinates, one of them looking nearly identical to Boros, but as of right now, we're not too sure if this exact creature is Boros. The damage of this attack was able to destroy thousands of stars and leave a giant hole in space, sending them to the moon of Jupiter. Now, I know it's a bit contentious whether or not they actually destroyed these stars or if they were simply moved out of the way, but just take it as we're giving them the highest feat here, saying that they did actually destroy the stars. Garo and Saitama then rip apart the moon with their battle, Saitama admitting that Garo can stay up even against his full power, puts Garo above literally every other antagonist in this series so far. This would include Boros, who is stated in the One Punch Man compass to be able to obliterate a star with his collapsing star roaring cannon, which you could then use to support the idea that they did actually destroy these stars rather than just simply pushing them away. Garo, understanding that his base power is completely futile against Saitama's full strength, decides to take another shot at resorting to using his Saitama mode, and is able to match Baldy yet again in an exchange of blows. Although Garo becomes equal to Saitama for a brief moment, Garo explains that every blow from Saitama is stronger than the last, which even someone like him who specializes in adaptation at an almost instant rate could not keep up with. This growth is explained to be because of the intense emotion Saitama was feeling at this time, which, as we know earlier in the series, Saitama explains how during fights he feels no emotion from them because of the vast difference in strength between him and his opponents. This ultimately makes Saitama depressed and in a constant pursuit of a quote-unquote thrilling fight. Garo, being the only person able to match this thing at the time, gave him the emotion of battle, which caused Saitama to grow exponentially at an alarming rate to the point where not even Garo can catch up to him, rendering him once again completely child's play in comparison to Saitama. Not to mention that during this encounter, Saitama literally sneezes and blows apart Jupiter. He doesn't destroy it completely, but it does get blown apart. But anyways, Garo realizes that he can't do anything against Saitama and seems to have given up on his absolute evil goal. So he decides to teach Saitama a martial art, which he admits himself he couldn't perfect. In the moment of teaching Saitama this martial art, Saitama is able to successfully copy this and send himself back in time. Unfortunately for Garo, he is then killed by God, who took his powers back from him. Saitama eventually arrives in the past before him and Garo initially clash serious punches, and is able to one-shot Garo completely out of his god form with the built-up power he had gained from his fight with Garo in the other timeline. Now concluding the Monster Association vs. Heroes, it seems Bang and Garo have finally reunited as both master and student, and Bang is getting Garo to apologize to the people he had caused damage to in the past. Garo says the reason why he became Bang's student is because he wanted to recall his own style, since he lost all abilities he gained since his monsterization, which arguably puts this version of Garo on the same level as Spiral Garo, the form he used to defeat Darkshine. Now to conclude the showcase of Garo's power, we know that he is able to copy all attacks and use them at a high level just by seeing them once. He has crazy calcs for his speed and strength, not to mention abilities like Fighting Spirit and uses of Water Stream Fist, or his passive output of Cosmic Radiation, which usually detriments humans weaker than him, and of course his ability to copy and adapt to phenomena makes beating someone like Garo very, very hard. But that's going to be the end of this video. Like I said at the beginning, if you enjoyed Garo, I do recommend you like the video and subscribe to the channel. This video was quite hard to put together. It took a very long time because I had to read through all of One Punch Man for it. But as always, have a nice day.